Shalom, my friendly Israelis and Jews. Today is a sad day for Israel and Germany. On September 5th, 1972, during the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich, West Germany, a terrorist attack was carried out by 8 members of the so-called Palestinian terrorist organization, Black September. The 8 members of the Black September terrorist group infiltrated the Olympic Village, murdering 2 Israelis and taking 9 others hostage. The hostages were later massacred during a failed rescue attempt. The group's commander, Latif Afif, named the operation Akrit and Baram after 2 Arab Christian villages depopulated in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Intelligence reports suggest some West German neo-Nazis may have aided the attackers, though their involvement remains disputed. Afif demanded the release of 328 prisoners, mainly Arabs held in Israel, along with others such as Red Army faction co-founder Ulrike Meinhof, who was imprisoned in West Germany. A botched rescue operation by Bavarian police ended in disaster. 5 of the 8 terrorists were killed, all the hostages were murdered, and a German police officer also died. The 3 surviving terrorists were captured but released a month later in exchange for hostages following the hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615. In response, Israel launched a covert assassination campaign, authorizing Mossad to eliminate those responsible for the massacre. Authorized by Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir in the autumn of 1972, the operation is believed to have continued for over 20 years, while Mossad killed several prominent Arab refugees during the operation. They never managed to kill the mastermind behind Munich, namely Abu Daoud. Decades later, the victims were officially commemorated. 2 days before the 2016 Rio Olympics, Brazilian and Israeli officials joined the International Olympic Committee in honoring the 11 Israeli athletes and 1 German police officer murdered. At the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, a moment of silence was held during the opening ceremony in their memory. These are the names of the 11 Israeli athletes and coaches who were held hostage, beaten, and brutally murdered by Black September. They were Moshe Weinberg, a 32-year-old wrestler who was the coach of the national team, Yosef Romano, a 32-year-old weightlifter and 6-day war veteran, Zev Friedman, a 28-year-old lightweight weightlifter, David Berger, a 28-year-old American-Israeli weightlifter, Yaakov Springer, a 51-year-old wrestler, weightlifting coach, and judge who took part in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising of 1943, Elliot Serhoffen, a 24-year-old wrestler, Yosef Gottfreund, a 40-year-old wrestling judge, Kehat Shor, a 53-year-old shooting coach, Mark Slavin, an 18-year-old Greco-Roman wrestler, Andrei Spitzer, a 27-year-old fencing master and coach, and Amitzer Shapira, a 40-year-old sprinter, long jumper, and head coach for the Israeli track and field team. And also, the West German policeman who was murdered during the attempted rescue of the hostages at Fürstenfeldbruck Airport, Anton Fliegerbauer, 32. Those who are Jewish, Israeli, and German, let us never forget this tragic event. 50 years ago, on September 5, 1975, Lynette Fromm, a member of the Manson family cult, attempted to assassinate United States President Gerald Ford in Sacramento, California. Fromm, standing just over an arm's length from Ford, aimed an M1911 pistol at him on the grounds of the California State Capitol. Since she had not chambered a round, the weapon failed to fire. Following the attempt, Ford proceeded to the State House to meet Governor Jerry Brown. Fromm was sentenced to prison for the incident, serving 34 years before being released on August 14, 2009, more than 2 years after Ford's death. The pistol was later donated to the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where it was placed on display. On September 5, 1977, The German Autumn began when it was marked by a series of attacks by the far-left terrorist group Red Army Faction, or simply the RAF. The German Autumn encompassed the kidnapping and murder of industrialist Hans Martin Schleyer, the hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 181, and the deaths by suicide of key first-generation RAF leaders while in prison. These incidents marked the concluding phase of the RAF's so-called Offensive 77 and are regarded as one of the gravest crises in the history of the Federal Republic of Germany. Now let's talk about Hans Martin Schleyer. Hans Martin Schleyer, a German business executive, employer, and an industry representative, Nazi SS officer, and lobbyist who served as president of two powerful commercial organizations, the Confederation of German Employers Associations and the Federation of German Industries, was kidnapped by the Red Army faction. The goal was to pressure the West German government into releasing Andreas Baader and 3 other RAF terrorist members imprisoned at Stammheim near Stuttgart. Soon after, Lufthansa Flight 181 was hijacked and flown to Somalia in support of these demands. On October 18, 1977, West German GSG-9 commandos freed the hostages, a success that was reported on the radio shortly before 3 RAF leaders committed suicide in their cells. Hans Martin Schleyer, who had been held hostage for 43 days, was subsequently murdered. On September 5, 2024, last year, Munich, Germany was under attack once again when a Muslim man from Austria, armed with a gun, was seen in the area of the Israeli Consulate General and the Nazi Documentation Center in Munich, Germany. When the man spotted the police, he opened fire on them. In the ensuing operation, officers returned fire and shot him dead. The 18-year-old gunman, Emrah Abrahamovich, was known to Austrian authorities as an Islamist terrorist. Well, that's all I have for today. If you like what you hear, leave a comment down below and subscribe. This is Stephen Luke. We will never forget those tragic souls lost in Munich. As I say to Israel and the Jewish people, Am Yisrael Chai.